more your meeting than our meeting. My assistant, trainee slash partner slash good girl, Whitney Taglar from Iowa State, joined us last year, and she's been traveling with me for the last 9 months, and so she's going to help me present tonight. We would just, again, want to thank you for coming, but want you to shout out as far as maybe questions or particular areas of concern that we could address. It looks like a majority of the folks in here tonight are with the pig project, but just a show of hands again, how many we got that are primarily pig? Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, so we guessed right, Nick. And we'll just kind of start stepping through this, and if you all were here last year, you heard some of this presentation, although we have changed up some products since last year, added some. Show ring has changed, you will see that in the presentation, so we just kind of need to adapt to a new style, new genetics that are coming down the pipe. As you know, it's very important that you balance you as far as your management skills, the nutrition you provide, based on the choices that you make and who you buy nutrition from, and then your genetics, which you all are probably in the process of doing right now by frequenting show pig sales. So, show of hands, how many people already have their show pigs for the year? All right, very good, very good. Well, you know better than I do how things have changed over the year. We were kind of looking at these pictures, and this Duroc, we believe, is from about 10 years ago.
Yeah, at least, probably a little before 2004.
Yeah, yeah. So, and actually, that was a fine specimen back then. Go ahead. This was actually in 2004, champion at Missouri State Fair. And then we jumped to 2012 with the pictures that I could find, and that gilt is a little more stylish, if you will. Looks a little more like the pigs we have today. And then finally, this gilt just won at San Antonio back in February. And we're really proud of these genetics, but certainly want to point out how they have changed over the years, and why it's really important that you change with the times, you change with the nutritional supplementation, as far as inputs go in your operation. Any questions or observations to this point? You like what you see now in the show ring? Yes.
So for me, who's not been in the pig side, I've always been more in cattle. Mm-hmm. What has changed mainly?
Well, you just see this more softer, more productive look compared to, go back to that Duroc. See how straight and lean he was, really posty on his leg, didn't travel so much, not a lot of fat cover, a little more muscle shape than that gilt that won. And even between, second back, this gilt, I mean, see how much that San Antonio gilt, she almost wants to break behind the shoulders. I mean, she is just soft. Yeah. And we get soft by fat supplementation and genetics and how we manage our pigs. Not that we don't want to drive our pigs and exercise our pigs, but we handle her differently than we used to handle the Arnolds of the world.
Right.
So, all right. So as we kind of get started here tonight, I think I need everybody to kind of be on the page that your show pig project is a visual assessment. It is a beauty contest. No matter how well they did or didn't do at home, rate of gain wise, no matter what you paid for them at the beginning or what the genetics were, at the end of the day, you are judged on how that pig looks in the ring at that particular time in front of an individual that could have a different opinion tomorrow. So your whole goal, whether you like it or not, is to please that judge. Point it again, you're going to get the eyes here. So, go back to that one more time. So, not only is nutrition important for eye appeal, but how you manage your pig at home. So, as an example, your pig isn't running off right here at this moment when the judge is looking. And so that you kids and you 4-H'ers in the room can have so much control of your pig because you've worked so hard at home that you can go in and you can place your pig in that show ring where you want that pig placed, about 11 to 15 feet out from the judge. You want that judge to see your pig walking away from him, square on, walking right back at him, and then give him 2 profile looks. That should be how you practice at home. Away, back, 2 profile looks. That has to happen in the ring for that judge to see that pig appropriately. If your pig, you don't work at home with your pig, doesn't matter what you feed your pig, doesn't matter how your pig's bred, if he's running around the perimeter of the show ring, what kind of look is that? Not so good. So the management factor, back to that triangle of success, is just as important as the pigs you pick out and the feed you pick out. Whitney, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so just for some general management practices, if you have more than one animal, that's always good. They usually do better if they're not by themselves. As far as facilities go, you want to make sure that their pen is always clean and dry, so clean bedding. Try to be as dust-free as possible. Make sure you know what temperature it is. You don't want it too hot or too cold. And during the summer months, I know keeping it cool is definitely a challenge. And you want to make sure you have sufficient space. We would recommend 250 square feet per pig. And then water. Clean, abundant, and make sure it's the right temperature as well. We kind of go by the rule of thumb. If you wouldn't drink it, then your pig probably isn't going to either. So.
One thing I always have to say here, and I always usually have somebody in the audience that doesn't like this, but we recommend clean bedding and shavings for the entire period. No mud holes. Because whether you like it or not, your pig doesn't really like mud. They're going there to try to relieve themselves of the heat, and actually when they get muddy, it kind of locks the heat in. So, you know, and it doesn't have to be fancy. Preferably sand or dirt with chips is ideal. When we've had show pigs at home, unfortunately we had to get them on concrete, so we had to bed extra heavy and put some rubber mats down to keep those pigs off of the concrete. If you don't, you end up with some sore hooves and some structural issues. So, you know, that's again something that you have to kind of deal with later in the summer as you kind of identify your pigs. But we do recommend, particularly now, as you're buying these pigs, even though they might weigh 70, 90 pounds, why not hang a heat lamp in there for these cool nights? Because I guarantee you, this ground is cool out here, and if we can keep them comfortable and warm and not get sick off the get-go, we've got a more successful project down the road. Go ahead.
So just getting started, you probably want to locate a reputable breeder. It sounds like almost all of you already have your pigs, so you've done that part. You know, your pig purchase date is important because of the date of your show. So you want to make sure that they're the appropriate age and also the appropriate weight, so they will finish at the right time.
Nick told us that some of the shows have changed in this area, so maybe some earlier shows that you guys are going to have to get to. So either, you know, bigger pigs to start with or push them harder, from what I understand.
I'd say Osage
Yeah,
moved
Osage
up,
went
and
to
then
June.
they moved Overbrook back a week, I heard.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. I don't think Shawnee County gets moved, I think it's pretty stable.
Okay, so basically, you know, rule of thumb here is if your pig needs to gain more than 2.2 pounds, if you've done the math from start to finish, if you have to gain more than 2.2 pounds a day, then you need to buy a bigger pig, because that's really an unrealistic goal, to gain more than 2.2 pounds. And likewise, if you've got to hold your pig from the get-go, your pig's weighing over 100 pounds now, and it can't gain more than 1.5 pounds a day from now till your show date, then you might want to consider a smaller pig. Because, I mean, if you start off and you're kind of in a jam here with your weight gain, you're already having to deal with some of our specialty products, or having to exercise more, or come in and do some diet work, if you will, and that's no fun. On average, it's just best to figure a pig's going to gain 1.7 pounds a day from now till the show.
So this is just some simple math for you. If you figured your show date of July 25th, that's 105 days at that 1.7 average daily gain. So your pig would gain about 178 pounds. So if you want to weigh 270 at the show and it's going to gain 178, then you need to buy about a 92-pound pig around April 10th.
So a week from now. And that's probably pretty close to Shawnee County's date, or
We have 113 days before
113,
weigh-in.
113, so you got an extra 6 days. So,
Water is really the most important nutrient. If they aren't drinking, they're not going to be eating the feed. So water and water quality is very important. It helps maintain their body temperature, especially through the warm summer months. And like I said before, it's directly related to feed intake.
you know, most of the calls that I get with folks saying that their pigs aren't gaining directly relate back to water. And a lot of times it's because that you put, not you personally, but folks have put a trough out in the pen, and the pigs have got in it during the day and swam, if you will, to stay cool, and they've messed in there and they won't drink it. Pigs are very clean and they would prefer not to drink dirty water. So, in order to avoid that, we've got some suggestions, but point being is that if they don't have water abundant all the time, then they're not readily eating all the time, and it's kind of risky to try to put it out in a pan in the morning and maybe go to work or go to the field or do whatever, come back at noon or come back at 5, you don't know how long they've been out of water. Consequently, they haven't been eating. The water apparatus that we have here is very simple. With a nipple, I mean, you can buy this anywhere, a plastic barrel like that. You can put ice in it, you can put medication in it, you could do whatever you needed to do in this. I know at our house, we didn't do this. We tried to just run a hose direct with a valve and had nipples in our pens and kept raising the nipples to kind of keep the pig reaching up, kind of like we do with the feed. However, and this is the same concept, we're raising this as the pig gets bigger so that the pig continues to reach up and out. You never want to water on the ground, you never want to feed on the ground, because you're training that pig to walk with his head up and out. We don't want that pig to be looking down at the ground because it gets real rounded, and the last thing he is when he's rounded is flat and even breaking across the top. And that's the look we want. Back to the beauty contest. Okay? So, providing water is very important. Now, like I started to say, at home we tried to do it in a hose, and what we were finding is that hose was getting hot laying out there, and then that was an issue too. So I really like this a whole lot better.
We'll go through some different nutritional basics. We'll start with protein. Protein has your essential and non-essential amino acids in it. Contains enzymes, antibodies, and your protein is what helps your muscle and muscle production. Energy would be your carbohydrates, so your grain in your diet. It would also be your fat, and help with your muscle synthesis and growth and body condition as far as fat cover and just overall bloom of your.
Fiber is not such an issue with monogastrics because they're non-ruminant animals, so we don't need to have a lot of scratch factor going on like we do with cattle or goats or sheep. But it's important to think about when you're buying show pig feed, because if there's a lot of fiber, that means there's not as much energy and there's not as much protein, because when we put a formula together, if we put a bunch of stuff in there that's kind of low end and low cost input price wise, it usually equates to a lot of fiber. So you gotta be careful. However, there is one exception, and that's a product that we have that we're actually going to give away tonight, is a depth charge product. And that is a fiber product. There's no energy in there, there's no protein in there, but what it gives you with your pigs is gut fill and rib shape. And that's what's important, particularly the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks prior to show. Not today. Today in your world is all about getting those pigs off to a good start, lots of energy, lots of protein, lots of fortification, lots of fuel for that immune system so that pig is healthy.
Minerals are also important. You have your macro minerals, which are needed in larger quantities than your micro minerals. But both are still very, very important. And they really help with your immune function. So if you're providing the right minerals to your animal, it'll help them be healthier throughout their whole life.
So you're saying to yourself, okay, so how would I not provide those? Well, if you just go down to the elevator and you get 1,600 pounds of ground corn and 400 pounds of soybean meal, you've pretty much done that. You're not providing a feed that's fortified with vitamins and trace minerals, vitamin E, selenium, cobalt, manganese, all of the little micro minerals that really give that immune system a boost. You are basically providing 1,600 pounds of corn, that's energy, and 400 pounds of soybean meal, that's 44 to 48% protein. The thing is with that, if you remember 3 slides ago, the protein mentioned lysine. Lysine is the most limiting amino acid, which is a building block of protein. And when we just dump a bunch of soybean meal, we only use soybean meal as a protein source, we're not meeting that pig's lysine requirement, which means we're not building muscle like we could potentially that the genetics that you've purchased are able to support. So if you buy good genetics and you don't buy the fuel that it takes to support the genetics, again, you haven't been as successful in the project as you possibly could have.
And then we have our vitamins, the fat soluble, A, D, E, and K, and then your water soluble, which would be your B vitamins. And then once again, water. We talk about water a lot,
Yeah.
but it's that important.
It's that important. Absolutely.
And muscles are made up of they're 72% water. So if you're going to have that muscle growth, you need water.
So simple things to remember, you can go ahead and push it one more time. That when you're shopping for feed, protein, and this could be with cattle, this could be with goats, lambs, poultry, bucket calves, cow-calf pairs, whatever, protein equals muscle, and energy equals growth. So carbohydrates, corn, it provides energy, makes them grow, makes them gain. Protein supports muscle growth, supports milk production, supports frame, but not cover. So protein is frame and muscle, energy is cover. Okay? And we need corn, certainly grain sources, to get them to gain, but sometimes it's hard just to pour a bunch of corn in and have them gain appropriately. We have to come in with fat supplementation. So, with that, how many of you in the room hand feed today? Hand feed? Hand feed? Hand feed? And then maybe you guys self-feed over here? No comment. You don't feed at all? Okay, this seems to be the biggest debate of all, whether to hand feed or whether to self-feed. There's pros and cons to both. I personally prefer hand feeding because I know exactly what my pigs are going to eat. Particularly upon arrival, when you buy pigs from different pig sales and you commingle them, it's important to know which of the pigs are eating and which are not. If you put them on a self-feeder day 1, you leave, you go to the house, you don't know which ones came up and ate, which ones didn't. It also, by hand feeding, allows you to adjust their growth rate. So if you had one of those pigs that needed to gain more than 2.2 or didn't need to gain any more than 1.7 or whatever the number is, you can do that by hand feeding. And most importantly, it gets you in with your pig, socializing with your pig at least 2 times a day. So you walk in the pen, you're there on their level, you're talking to them, you might roll your eyes, but I guarantee you, a pig that's been handled and talked to and petted and loved wins in the show ring because they are used to that. If you put a pig on a self-feeder and you never get in the pen with them, they're the ones that are running around the pen at the show. Okay. So, self-feeding, oh, go ahead.
No, you should go ahead.
No.
Self-feeding, if you're going to do it, maybe earlier is better. That way, later on, when you're trying to get exact weights, you can do the hand feeding, so that works out. It does save time and is really convenient. I know that we all are short on time.
That's right.
Especially with the hectic schedules we have today. With self-feeding, I mean, they do get maximum feed consumption. They can eat at any time of the day, which for some pigs is good. They can get fat on self-feeders though, so you have to watch that as well.
What we usually recommend is if you're going to use a self-feeder, start by hand feeding for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Get the pigs in, get them acclimated, make sure they're not sick, make sure they're eating and go. And then maybe because of school or your schedules or whatever, you put them on a self-feeder till the kids get out of school for the summer. And then you can bring them in and start hand feeding them. We really say about 150 pounds usually is the marker where you need to say, okay, I think I need to take them out of the self-feeding situation and hand feed and dial down on exactly what the pig needs to look like. This is just a picture kind of illustrating a environment that we would be very in favor of if your pigs had that. Good ventilation, good air quality. Yeah, some feeders hanging there, they're clean. Their bedding is dry and appropriate. We like to think of the show feed proposal in a 3-phase concept. Phase 1 is now until they weigh about 150 pounds. Phase 2, 150 to 200 pounds. And then phase 3 is when we call fitting, that you're actually tuning your pig, deciding how much exercise that pig is getting, and really dialing down on more protein, more energy. Maybe I need paline, maybe I need to clean up front or whatever. That happens at about 200 pounds. So go ahead. Yeah, that's fine. No, I mean, this is where they are now. This is important.
Yeah. So phase 1, young pigs have a lot of stress just because they're getting weaned, they're getting moved around, commingling with others. So there's probably going to be some challenges that you have to overcome, maybe with feeding or sickness. You need to feed a high quality feed to begin with. That'll help get them off to a good start, because if they don't get off to a good start, they're never going to be
Right.
doing that well.
They say you can't get over a bad start, and that is so true. That is so true.
I know we said earlier, more than one pig is good because they don't like to be singled out, but if you have them in pens, I limit that to about 3 in a pen, just so they don't get too crowded or too rough with each other.
Yeah. And then again, get in that pen with the pigs. If you can't tell, I like to say that a lot. And then bed the pens with dry shavings. Phase 2, we would recommend that you start weighing your pigs at least weekly. Some people do it more often, but we would say that at least weekly so you can monitor average daily gain and manage your feed conversion. So you know if the feed you're feeding is actually producing the kind of conversions that you want. Move to hand feeding, like we said, and then at this point in time, we would recommend that you start training that pig and be thinking out as far as how long that pig's going to be up at the show. Keeping that pig up and happy is probably your biggest challenge to overcome. For those of you that are showing maybe in the Eastern Kansas show circuit, you kind of got an edge because you've been out and you've been showing when those pigs are younger. If you're just going to your county fair, and it's hot in the end of July, 1st of August, and that pig hasn't been conditioned to stay up for 30 minutes, that pig's going to start squealing, go find a corner, and have a meltdown right there in the pen. So this is a good period of time for you to start trying to mimic what's happening in the show ring without overdoing it.
If you're gonna show, like in that series, would that affect your average weight for that 1.7? Can you
It
still,
does.
can you still plan on that for?
You can plan on that, but you're going to have to feed for that too. And you're going to have to work, and that's a great question, about avoiding and eliminating stress factors. So one of the biggest stress factors when you show early for the first couple times is loading. That is like a major stress point for the pigs, and if you can make that as unstressful as possible, that pig's going to stay healthier and gain better. I mean, it's all about comfort, and they have to be comfortable doing whatever they're doing. Separation from one pig to the other at those shows kind of brings on some drama with them. Anything you can possibly do early, though, makes going to your fair so much better. And I always tell people, maybe you're not going to go on the show circuit early, but go to at least one show, one spring beef show, one spring pig show, one spring lamb show, and just kind of get it under your belt. And then you can say you've been out, you didn't wait. I mean, we had a pig at our county fair, I can remember, and it's probably the pig that should have won the whole deal. A really nice flory pig, I mean, just a great pig. And they never took that pig anywhere, and they waited until the day that they were going to come to weigh in to try to load for the very first time. They couldn't get that pig loaded, could not get that pig loaded. We all went to try to help them. We got the pig loaded, and that pig shrunk up, was just a mess. The rest of the fair didn't show worth a darn because it'd never been around any other pigs, and it was just an unfortunate management situation that happened. So again, it's about management. There's all kinds of things you can do as far as coaxing them to do things. Treats, horse treats, marshmallows, Oreos, whatever it is, whatever floats their boat they like. It's great for training. And when they do something good, reward them for doing that, you know. We also recommend, and I'll mention it later, that you know, they have their home pen at your place. You don't do all your practicing in that home pen. Practice walking out the gates. Practice walking back in the gate. Even practice in another pen at your house that maybe simulates a show ring. Have strangers come over to the house, particularly with cattle. It's a bigger deal with cattle than it is with pigs. But when a stranger is out there and then your kids are working that tee, if you will, with that judge, it makes a big difference that you're not doing that for the first time at the show. Same with water, same with feed, same with everything. Don't do anything for the first time when you go to the show. That's kind of your rule.
Phase 3, again, would be that 200 pounds to show. So you want to continue to weigh them and monitor their weight, so you know whether you need to hold them or push them more, or maybe some supplements you need to be using. Continue to prepare for show. Continue to rinse and wash your animals. That's another important thing to do before you go to the show. Make sure you're practicing that at home. And then keep training those animals.
I tell you what, getting those pigs slightly wet with a mist, or using some a lotion mist, if you will, and using a soft rice root brush really makes that hair pop and that skin really soft and supple. And if you were doing that several times a day, not only are you socializing with your pig, but you're working that hair and bringing that skin to a kind of a really mellow state. Really makes a huge difference in regards to the beauty contest that you're entering. So that's easy for kids to do. They can get out there with a brush. Just remember, don't use that rice root brush on show day, because you're going to have red marks all over your white pig, and they're not going to go away. So the rice root brush happens at home, not at the show. Soft brush at the show. Driving your pigs, you know, we really encourage driving your pigs at least 30 minutes a day. That's for an exercise standpoint, building muscle and training and creating a hog that is very disciplined.
Fitting pigs, this would be the final 30 to 45 days before you show. Specialized feed products. We have supplements that you may need to add in order to get that look that you want. For more muscle, we have Paline, of course. Then we have Champion Drive and Fitter 35. If you want more energy, we have fat products such as Heavyweight or Power Fuel. And then for more fill, we have that fiber product called Depth Charge.
And for those of you after the meeting, we do have a new piece that shows all of our high-octane supplements and where they work on the pig, so you're welcome to take one of those home. We also have these wheels, so on the front is the high-octane product. You know, again, do you want lean muscle expression, rib and fill, top shape, what kind of medication, or on the back is just the weight ranges on your pig, and you're welcome to take one of these. Any questions up till this point? I mean, since we're trying to kind of do multi-species, if we can answer any questions that are particular that maybe you came here to get the answers for, or we'll sure try to answer them, or no? Okay, this is just a really nice chart about weight manipulation, and just keep in mind that feed conversion is is really good when they're babies. They're going to grow fast. It doesn't take a whole lot of feed to get them there. 1/6 to 2 pounds of feed equal 1 pound of gain. But when they get in the 200-pound range and you're trying to fit and tune on them that last 30 to 45 days, it's going to take, 3 pounds of feed to equal 1 pound of gain. So you kind of got to calculate that as you're working on your matrix there. Again, weighing them is very, very important. So what we might do, if you guys don't have any pig questions, I know we have some cattle folks in the room and we got some bucket calf folks in the room. We might jump to that if we don't have any pig questions.
No, one more.
Very good.
So you had one that was about the 1.6 mark pounds per day right now. Would you hold it back a little bit now at 150 pounds, or would you wait till it's closer?
What's
Would
the
you
pig
work-
weigh now?
97 pounds.
97 pounds. I would not hold it back if you were going to show him at all.
Okay.
I would feed him, and then when you get out there at about 150 pounds, after you've kind of gone through this show period and exercised and burned off some calories, then I would get a good feel for how much he's gaining then. Because like you said, he's going to slip a little when you start taking him out, because we just can't totally avoid all the stress. Is he a friend? Is the other pig a friend?
No.
Oh.
He's 21 days younger, so
We
we'll have
would-
to push him.
Sure. We would recommend, kind of back to that slide, if you can't afford or choose not to have, 2 show pigs that are really good, we would recommend that you at least get a friend, a companion type of pig, to be in there with them and show them the ropes. Sometimes those companion pigs are a savior when it comes to managing pigs. So.
For your feed products now, you got the big.
Feed products right now would be, we'd recommend that you'd start on the 709, which is like the old show pig grower T100. That does have 100 grams of Linco in it. And then after about 100 to 150 pounds, depending on your pig, depending on the genetics, we'd recommend that you go to the 809. And we have detail sheets up here on that as well. Again, remember the protein and the energy slides that we showed. This is an 18% protein that you would start on, and this goes to a 16% protein. But as you kind of start coming in with different protein supplements in the high octane line, the Fitter 35 that kind of cleans them up front, and the Champion Drive Top Dress, they're also protein supplements too. So those last 30, 45 days, you really could be feeding in excess 25-30% protein, because maybe you're trying to build muscle shape and you're trying to clean that pig up front or whatever. So don't get too hung up on the percent protein that you're feeding, realizing that we're doing that to target certain areas of the pig. If you have a pig that's 21 days younger, we probably wouldn't mind if you fed 1 bag of a 509, which is more like a pig starter for us. It also has fenbendazole in it, which is a dewormer. We recommend that you deworm your pigs once every month. I also recommend that you do use Safeguard or fenbendazole. You guys have it out here. It's the simplest thing, a feed-through product that's really going to clean them up. And, first of the month, whatever, mark it on your calendar, just put it in their water or put it in their feed and be done with it.
What's the stress on switching feed products? Like if we're using Blair right now and we wanted to go to Purina?
Well, not to say anything negative about a competitor, but if you improve the quality of the product that you're feeding, which you would be from a density standpoint, from a fortification standpoint, from an ingredient standpoint, it's okay. If you're going the other way, then you would have some stress issue. And particularly at this age, we want to feed the highest quality that we possibly can, because they don't eat much. So every mouthful is so very important. It has to be dense in nutrients.
Yeah. Usually you cover here, what would you say the average is bags per pig, usually for a fair?
Average bags per pig, we used to say 10 bags. And
It doesn't change
we
when they change
changed that
formula.
because we've invented 709 3 years ago, actually. Kind of had it available to all the market last year. And what we found is people were kind of felt like that they wanted to feed more of it. than we wanted them to feed. They wanted to feed 12 or 15 bags a day. So we actually dialed 709 back a little energy-wise from the old Show Pig Grower T100 and allows you to feed about 12 bags. So 12 bags of 709 should get you from the Show Pig sale to your county fair. So. Now, again, it depends on the genetics, depends on the exercise level, but that's a pretty good rule of thumb. But yeah, we had some pushback. Guys were like, well, they don't seem to eat as much of your feed. They eat so much more of this other feed. Well, they were eating more of the other feed to get more energy, more growth potential. And we realized we had created a feed that was a little too dense, if you will, and so we had to water it down a little bit. Just a little bit.
Good just for help. I mean, planning on pigs, okay, I know I need this many bags per pig, I can, yeah.
Yep. And everybody's going to get a free bag here tonight. We've got coupons for you at the end. We've got some door prizes, so we're not turning you loose. We're just maybe moving on to other species. But that's okay. Why don't you pull up that 4-H bucket calf one? How many bucket calves do we have in the room? We got some bucket calves. Okay. Very good. Now, this bucket calf presentation is kind of going to date me because this is about 10 years old, but it's still true. Everything is factual. In case you didn't know, Leonhard owns Purina, the butter people, so that's why, you know, anyway. Common nutritional pitfalls of the bucket calf project. And I say this passionately because I was the beef superintendent at our county fair, and sometimes it made me sad and cry to walk through the bucket calf barn. Because sometimes there is a lot of unknowing mistreatment that happens to those bucket calves because of some of the real simple nutritional contributions that aren't provided. So basically the first nutritional pitfall with the bucket calf project is they're not getting adequate quality or quantity of colostrum, which is a cow's first milk. Particularly if you go buy that calf at the sale barn, they say, oh yeah, sure, yeah, we got colostrum for the first 24 hours and then it was on the cow for another 3 days. Yeah, maybe, maybe not. If you use a poor quality starter feed, so it's just like the pig feed, if you're not using, in this case, a 16 or an 18% calf starter to get that calf going and you're trying to do it with an all stock, you'll see that in the end. Not offering water free choice to those babies. A lot of folks feel like, well, this is a bucket calf project. I'm feeding milk in a bottle. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to feed water to those calves. You must feed water to the calves. Sometimes what happens is we offer too much hay. Honestly, no hay is required at all to create a rumen. They fill up on hay that's a lot of empty calories. It's a calf has a protein requirement of 18% and you're feeding it 8% hay and he fills up on 8% hay and doesn't have any more room left for any of the feed or maybe the milk, he's not meeting his requirements. Protein builds muscle and frame. You've got a short, skinny, toothpick-looking calf with a big belly. So that's how I can pretty much diagnose a protein shortage at the county fair if the calf weighs 150 pounds and has a big old belly for a hay belly going on. So anyway, using poor quality forage like prairie hay, some people say, well, we want to start cattle on prairie hay because it's the best hay to start cattle on. Not so much for bucket calves. No feed additives, meaning no Bovatec, no rumensin in the starter. Letting the calves run out of feed, be hungry, it certainly isn't a good idea. And then just overall poor feed intakes. Okay. Failure to see how they're growing also can be an issue. Poor mineral program, again, you're buying a feed that's not fortified, and then there you go again, poor quality and water availability. So basically what we recommend from birth to 10 to 12 weeks, which you should think about it, that's 3 months, okay? 3 months is a long time in a lot of people's mind to feed a starter. But we're going to ask you to provide that calf with colostrum, 5 to 6 quarts the first 24 hours, and feed colostrum if you have ownership of that calf the second and third day of life. After that, that calf should get 3 quarts. Go on to the next one. After that, that calf is going to a milk replacer. That calf will perform best on all milk replacer, but a soy protein is just fine for that calf. Feed at least 2 quarts twice a day, along with your water. Yeah. And then the calf starter needs to be age appropriate. Intake at an early age is the key to early weaning. And when I say weaning in the bucket calf project, that means the day that you get that calf off the milk replacer. Because as much as I'd love Premier to sell you a bunch of milk replacer long term does not make a good calf. Milk replacer long term makes a skinny, big belly, long haired, long toed, ugly bucket calf.
And expensive.
And expensive, that's right.
90
So
bucks, 50 pounds.
basically we
Expensive.
figure it's going to take you between 35 and 50 pounds of milk replacer per calf to get the job done. After that, if your calf is still eating a lot of milk replacer, then we need to back up and try to get that calf to eat starter feed. That's why we recommend starter feed in the first week of life. Calf intake will be higher on a texturized starter feed with molasses than it will be on a dry pelleted feed. But a dry pelleted feed is better than just all stock or cracked corn. So, again, offer free choice water, fresh. Weaning calves off the milk replacer is driven by how much feed they're actually eating. So our rule of thumb is if your calves are consuming 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds for 3 consecutive days, that means you're okay to pull the milk replacer away from that calf. Until those calves are consuming that much feed, you can't pull the milk replacer. That's why you got to start the calf starter early and quick. I've seen as much spread with the same age calves fed correctly versus ones that are fed a little bit of milk and hay and not really dry feed until they're 6 to 8 weeks of age, end up 200 pounds difference at the county fair. And that's all nutrition right there. The starter medication should include something for coccidiosis. Bovatec, Decox, Rumensin are all good forms of a coccidiostat because coccidia in bucket calves is rampant. Basically, they're doing a lot of nosing around. Certainly, we want to keep those calves separate so they can't suck each other or become nose-to-nose contact with each other, primarily because of coccidiosis. So keeping them clean and separate and providing the medication in either the milk replacer or the calf starter is very important. Again, forages are not required, and really we don't really recommend forages. You can get actually all the way to the fair if you're feeding a balanced feed from Nick in the form of our replacement heifer product, our grower product, our Startina product, Growina, Startina, all of them have the roughage calculated in them. They don't need to feed supplemental hay. If you just feel like you have to, do it by the handfuls, controlled. Never let them out on the grass. Never let them just have access to a big round bale. Again, short, wide calves. Skinny butts. Okay. Continue to feed the starter feed once they're 200 pounds, 6 to 7 pounds of starter feed a day. If they're doing that, then we can go with the forages at that point in time. But that's just a nice rule of thumb once they're weighing 200 pounds. Any questions on the bucket calf project? Management tip would be to start getting a halter on within the first 2 weeks of life. A rope halter, let them drag it, let them step on it, let them get their chin a little tender, respect you a little bit, and then with supervision, your folks' supervision, tie that calf up at eye level. The key to breaking that calf to show is breaking that calf to keep his head up and respect you. And tying that calf at eye level and leaving him tied up for half hour, 45 minutes at a time is a wonderful tool to get that done. You don't need a fancy halter. Rope halter, and actually at a bucket calf, a lamb halter is the best, and a rope halter, all rope, no chain, is the best too because you can adjust it with the size of the head and everything as you go. Most of the mistakes people make is to get that halter too low down, and all you're getting is their lips instead of getting it up here by their eyes, and you're getting a lot of that jowl, and that's where it's tender, and that's where the respect comes from. Okay, moving on. What about steers? We got steers in here? Heifers? All right, heifers. We want to handle heifers a little bit different than we want to handle steers, and actually we've got a new product out this year that might allow you to do that. Same thing here, the genetics, the nutrition, the management. all are key to making a successful project. We'll kind of skip through some of this. This is actually this year in Denver for us, and real proud of this steer. Fed actually some full range with some power fuel and heavy weight to this steer. Full range is a new product that we have out this year. It's a product that's kind of a little bit lower energy than Finishing Touch, but a lot more corn in it, you can visually see, and a lot more roughage products to give you more fill and more bloom. Most of the rib shape in this steer came from this product. We didn't do a lot of depth charge on that steer. Didn't need to. Pretty good steer. But, okay, ruminants, you get this. I don't want to bore you to total death here. We'll tell you, though, that this year, once you go on to the product part, that this year we have brought Amifirm, which is a natural feed additive, direct fed microbial, into all of our show feeds. So if you're a Sure Champ user, a Vitafirm Sure Champ user, and you swear by Amifirm, well, we got it in all of our feeds. So we still have the Tasco, which is the kelp meal, which is a vasodilator, which helps them stay a little cooler. It helps them grow some hair. It helps their immune system because it's a natural chelated trace mineral. We got the Amifirm, like I said, brand new this year. We've got Diamond V yeast, which helps with fermentation in the gut, in the rumen, and then we've got our Zen Pro Availafor trace mineral package as well. Let's go to the heifer one. Plan of attack for heifers. We would recommend that you start with a growing feed unless you're going to show the heifer hard this spring. If you're going to show the heifer hard this spring, she's going to need a little more energy. The full range product would be a lot better product than the Fitter's Edge if you're going to drag her around to very many shows. Grind and mix option for those of you that maybe get a custom blend from a local elevator or something. We have a product called Grand Fortifier. It's a concentrate of ours. It has the Amifirm in it. It has the yeast, the Tasco, the Availafor. It's got 27% cottonseed hulls plus a fat nugget of ours called Propel. You mix it at a rate of about 3 parts of a grind and mix corn and oats to 1 part of this, and you come up with a pretty simple, nice, economic kind of ration. We also recommend, and most of my guys that I'm doing rations for are including 10 to 20% of our Precon Complete pellets. If anybody of you have been to a steer walk clinic, you've seen Kirk talk about Precon Complete. Precon Complete non-medicated is actually a starter feed of ours, but it's full of high effective fibers, roughage sources, and we get a lot of fill and belly from that product. And we can use it as an ingredient when we build formulas using the Grand Fortifier. So, you know, hypothetically, if you had a mill, maybe you own your own corn, you wanted to go get some cracked corn and oats, maybe from a mill, and then you come and add some of this and maybe some Precon Complete, we can kind of create a pretty nice diet real economically for that. Anyway, this is just an example. I think I have a heifer mix next. Maybe not, go back to that. This is a pretty nice example of just a mix I would put together for steers. With the heifers, I would bring the corn down a little bit, bring the Precon Complete up. I'm not a big fan of molasses, but some people feel like the cattle won't eat it if it doesn't have molasses on it. So my thought is, kind of like my kids, if they never know it, then they don't expect it. So never let them have any molasses and they won't need molasses. So I like rumensin too, helps with feed efficiency, rate of gain, coccidiosis, and most importantly, bloat on the cattle. So 35 pounds of a product we called Super Mix R1500 per ton is a real nice addition, and then the Grand Fortifier. There's, keep it simple, 3 parts corn, 1 part Grand Fortifier. You've got a pretty nice mix. Any questions on the cattle? Kind of went through that fast, but I know you guys are like, it's school night, I'm tired, we just had a good meal. Again, we do have some charts up here where the high octane products work on the steers. The Fitter 35 is probably the additive that's most recent and most defined as far as trying to clean up brisket areas, trying to clean up underlines, keep them looking a little fresher, if you will. Champion Drive Top Dress is going to work more over the top. muscle definitions across the top and down over the ribs, where Fitter 35 is kind of going to work in the neck area. Yes, sir?
Do you want to feed your heifer hay?
Yes, that was a very good question. We definitely want to feed your heifer hay. In fact, if she's eating what you want her to eat, you know, maybe 10, 15 pounds a day now, and you're going to get her on up to maybe, depending on the breed, if it's an Angus heifer, 15 pounds, and then you kind of go the other way because they want to gain weight really easy. They're very good doers. Sometimes it's really smart to have your heifer have access to a big brown bale feeder overnight, particularly after she's bred and after she's in good show condition. Now, as she's growing, that's not a good idea because we don't want her to choose hay over grain. We want her to get her to an ideal weight, and we want to be careful because we can't push her too hard right now because we want to get her bred in May and June. So we got to juggle that, how she looks in the show ring now, keep her, you know, at 12 o'clock from an appearance standpoint, keep her lean enough to get her bred, and then push her through the summer, maybe if you're going to junior nationals or you're going to the county fair. But it's really important that when you get to the county fair or junior nationals, that she looks like she is just loaded with a calf. And the depth charge will help you do that, but a round bale feeder at night helps a lot too. Questions? It got warm in here, didn't it? I put my coat on. Oh, it's 54. Well, he's got it set at 54. It's all of our heat.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably from the food. I'll crack the door for you.
Oh, no, you're fine. Any questions? Anything else we can talk about tonight, or? Yes?
Anything about goats you can help us?
Goats, we do have a goat presentation. We have, but I mean, to make it simple, we have an Impulse 16% R20 goat. Goats are actually kind of finicky eaters. You wouldn't think it. You think goats are going to eat everything and all of that. That's actually not the case at all. They're very finicky. Just as an example, we've got some goats at my house right now, and they're just nannies. They're nothing special to write home about. But I was doing good and buying our Noble Goat Grower 16 right along, and got to one of my accounts that didn't have goat feed and picked up just a bag of 12% sweet mix. Took that home, and they just not eating that. They're funny. They're very picky. So we do recommend a pellet for goats, so they can't sort, they can't choose, if you will. They're browsers, if you will. If you ever get out in your yard, they're eating your rose bushes, they're eating woody plants. They don't eat the annual, you know, pansies that you buy. They eat the fancy perennials, you know. It's frustrating. With that said, that's why we put the ionophore, the fortification. It's got the Amifirm, all of the whistles and bells that's in all the feed. It's in every bit of pellet here. They exercise themselves more than a pig does. I can tell you that. They naturally exercise. We do recommend that you build some kind of ramp or mound or something for them to play on, because they like to play king of the mountain and kind of compete with each other and knock each other off the mountain, and that's really good for an adrenaline burst and muscle presentation when they do that. So we want to encourage that. We don't want to kind of run them like we do lambs as much, because their muscle makeup is different than a lamb, but they are primarily muscled up critters, if you will. We have to be kind of careful with the energy, because sometimes they want to kind of body down and get a little too soft, and we just have to maintain that playing and action involved so we don't get them too fleshy.
Can you keep a breeding and a market goat together?
You can if you don't get the breeding goat too fleshy. You just have to kind of watch how she's doing. Yes?
What would you build the mound out of? Just dirt, or would you put like?
Yeah, yeah. Even if you had some, you know, something they can jump up on safely, you know, that's
hay bale?
Children's playground or the plastic play sets.
yeah.
I bet
And as
people
long
tell
as
me
they
they've
just
used
don't
those
lose their
something.
grip, but they say that's
Yeah.
very, very important. We do have some producers that use treadmills on goats, just like we do on lambs, and reverse treadmills. But again, you know, lamb's makeup is a lot different, a lot more muscle shape and tone than a goat's. Similar but yet different all at once. And again, you can see it here. So, yeah,
Can you play King of the Mountain with the goat?
you can. Actually, I think goats have more personality than sheep do, for sure. I mean,
That's
they,
not saying much.
I know, that's true, that's not saying much, but they actually do have good personalities.
So you can knock them off the hill.
You could knock them off the hill.
That would be fun.
Might play back.
Yeah. Well, do you want to do the door prizes now, or
Yeah, that sounds
if
fine.
we've answered? And we'll be around. If you guys have some questions particular to your project, we'll be around. Help yourself to all this information
Thank you,
here
Sarah.
at the
Appreciate
end.
it very much, by the way.
So you bet. But let